Welcome to the Blackskins podcast. The Blackskins. The Blackskins family. We back in, y'all. Today is Money Monday. I'm happy to be here on Money Monday because today's Money Monday, we're going to tell the story of Amago Green's contracting experience. I can tell you how I went from zero money to an opportunity with the utility company to starting small, to building up, to flipping, all the way up to the point once we had enough houses we was doing where we went all the way to China and made our own Amaglow light. And that was the same thing that gave us the opportunity to do the Amaglow solar light. And we got more coming to you. But first and foremost, on this Money Monday, I want to express to you what the journey was like going from being an individual person to starting energy efficiency contracting service. As we always talk about on Money Monday, I want to talk about equity, not equality. And you'll find on that journey of that, I learned about equity, not equality, based off of differences of opinion. Some people thought that there should have been equality within my organization. And it's going to be very difficult for you to have equality with me, and I'm a sole proprietor. Second is ownership. If you start something, you're the contractor, it's your paperwork. It's hard for you to be able to give out equity and create stakeholders if they're not thinking in a manner of syndicate. Next, we'll talk about the cash that came in and how the cash came in and how I went about making sure that the cash went back out so we could also make sure we had a revolving door of installations being done so we could create invoices and see those invoices come back in. Last was interest and credit. And I can tell you how the credit helped boost things up and how the lack of credit was something that created the challenges that we needed to be able to figure out how to overcome. So let's get into it. How did it all go down? How was it found that Amago Green would be a contractor with the utility premier Dominion in the state of Virginia? And eventually we were also the first contractor that they sent over to do the home energy checkup program in North Carolina as well. So let me tell the story from the beginning of where it started in my mind. It started when I was sick. I was sick, and I never forget my brothers had to come to the house and my mom came and they had to take me up the stairs that day. And I was like, I'm okay. As long as I get in bed and get some sleep, I'm going to be all right. And that night I slept and I couldn't tell you what happened. I was in such a deep sleep. And I remember when I woke up, I was already dressed. I was like, what's going on? And the rescue squad was there. And I remember they asked me, they said, what's your name? Man, I was real proud. I knew my name. I was like, I'm Corey Coleman. Like, who's the president? I'm like, Barack Obama. And they're like, what year is it? And I was like, oh, what's the date? Like, 1972. Falls out. Next thing I know, I'm in a coma for like 3 days. Like, I couldn't tell you what happened in that time span. I was in a diabetic coma. Only thing I knew was the fact that I knew the Creator loved me regardless. I had no pain, but I definitely had to figure out what was going on when I came back to my senses 3 days later, because I woke up in the hospital bed, got straps on my arm, connected to both sides of the bed. Catheter in my privates got me right on the bed. You know what I'm saying? I can't move. I got the IV in my neck. You know what I mean? And I'm just wondering what in the hell has happened to me. Honestly, I didn't even know I was in a hospital when I first came to. When I first came to, I thought to myself, of course, with my privates being on the bed and I'm bound by my arms. I thought, some kind of way, maybe my, wife got mad at me and I was in a husband's jail or something. Then I realized, I looked up and there was a TV on the wall, and then I saw the IV, and, I seen the, the boop, boop, boop machine, So I said, oh, okay, maybe I am in the hospital, but I don't know what's going on. So, first thing I can remember coming on TV, like breaking news. It was Ava Joy Burnett was the reporter, and she was reporting the fact that the Venezuelan president Chavez had died. As soon as that came to me, the spirit let me know, like, man, you could have been gone. You ain't had the insurance that man had. You ain't had the doctors and the care that he had. You ain't had the prestige or the status that man had. But the Creator favored you to come back, and he over on the other side. Right before I came back, somebody that I previously known early in my life, who really troubled my wife when we went to a funeral for one of our peers that was gone. He had got up, and not the one that was gone, but the dude that came and visited me right before I woke up in a coma. He had passed, but for some reason, subconsciously, he came to me. And I remember one of the things he did right before he passed away. He got up at one of our other friends' funeral, and he had a poem he wanted to say that nobody really felt the energy of. Nobody was appreciative of that poem he gave. And I'll never forget, on the ride home, my wife was like, if anything ever happened to me and he get up to try to say something at my funeral, you better tell him sit his ass down. So now I'm in a situation where he coming to me asking me if I wanted to chill out with him. First thing I said was, hell no. Next thing I know, I'm up in the hospital looking at my arms and realizing my stuff is on the bed, And like I said, I look up at the TV, and Ava Joy Burnett is talking about the fact that Chavez is gone, and the spirit talked to me. So that was like the beginning. Then that next day, while I was at the hospital, I'm sort of conscious. My man Earl gave me a call, and he's like, Corey, get well, brother. We gonna do this thing with Dominion. I just talked to Honeywell today, and I was like, all right, I heard him. I remember that call back, and I appreciate that. That's still my man. So once I got back healthy somewhat, that was in March. It took me to about April and May to get back to being me. And then by June, we started the process of getting connected with the Honeywell associates that was doing the program. It took a while before everything happened. It was by the end of the year before we was actually registered with the system and ready to go. So we had to know what the program was all about, studied the program. By the end of the year, we knew what supplies we needed, what paperwork, what the process was, and we had to do some small work, just getting a few $100s in so we could have the supplies necessary to at least do the first 5 houses. So the beginning of the year come, we go and get the first 5 houses done so they can check them and go through the process of making sure that we're doing things correctly. And then we did a little bit more work and got supplies so we could do 10 more houses. And when February came, it was a snow day. And my brother Roy he was at Virginia State at the time, and I lived right on Washington Ave in Petersburg. So I was literally right around the corner, and one of uh, one of his professors knew about the program and gave us an opportunity to do an appointment at his house, and then he referred us to our first client, and we did her house. And at that time, I ain't even really had that much gas. I picked my brother up. I had enough gas to get to the lady's house, and I just had faith, like something gonna happen, And I never forget, the very first client asked us to spray some stuff on the roof and, do a couple of extra things that would bring us some extra change. So after we did the first house, the extra work she needed, she gave us some money to be able to go and pick up some supplies and do the work. And she had a gas can in the garage, and I was able to get 1 cup of gas and put into the truck and get to the gas station, then get the loads and get the supplies, get back to her house and finish doing the work necessary. And then we went to the next client. And the next client referred us to the next client. And before you know it, those 10 houses within a week we had got done. And we got a little bit more money to be able to get supplies for 10 more houses. So before the month of February was over, those 24 had got completed by people just giving us word of mouth referrals. We go to one house and install lights, put door strips on the doors, put down, turn the temperature of the hot water heater, putting aerators in the kitchen and bathroom, changing shower heads. Those were the requirements of the program. Those were the installed measurables that we did. So we did 24 houses to begin. And then my friend, Mr. Henderson, a great mentor, told me that he would give us the credit to be able to get 20 more supplies. And he owned homes. So not only did he help with giving us supplies to do more homes, he also was able to give us the reference to be able to do his tenants. So he had about 8 homes that he rented to people between Petersburg and Richmond. And we did those homes. And then he traveled down with me to my hometown of South Boston, where I was able to do some homes in the neighborhood that I grew up in. And I remember as soon as we did a couple houses in the neighborhood, our first helper, associate, was able to be found in the process. Roderick Walmack, my man Peanut. And Peanut was able to get started down in South Boston, bringing forth a new region that we could cover. We went to Petersburg, Richmond area, and I'm telling you, we did about 45 houses to start. And by the time April came, we hadn't seen a dime. And I'm on my knees praying, saying to the Creator, please don't forget us, please. Like, we done did all we could and we did the best good we can do. And I know you got us. Please, please. I'm on my knees praying. I'm on my face crying. And I ain't lying. I had one of those in Petersburg. We got a historic home, and it had one of those mail slots in the door of the front door. And I never forget, I'm praying, I hear that slot open, and I heard something hit the floor like poop, So I just finished my prayer and walked down the same stairs that my brothers had to carry me up just a few months ago, Now I go down the steps and I look at the door and I see the floor, and it's just checks spread across the floor. And I fall down and start crying all over again. I'm like, oh, it done finally snapped, So, of course, I collect the checks. I get them. It was 23 checks. We did 45 houses, but only 23 of the initial checks it came in. And when those 23 checks came in, we was at zero. And that added up to be about $5,500 almost. Changed everything. I mean, we was able to, that same day, I started the Verizon plan that I'm using right now. That's been over 10 years ago, but we went out and got the Verizon phones. Everybody had the big phone. I had one. Roy had one. Got one for my wife. Peanut ended up even having a phone. Like everybody had the big phones. We were out there doing all this. Like first checks at least had us where we could communicate. And then once I knew we could communicate and process the stuff right from our phone, then we upped the supply. Instead of being able to just get 20 houses we could get the supplies for, now we started being able to get the supplies for 50 houses at a time. That supplier, after us buying and paying cash for supplies for a quarter, then they opened up a credit line for us, and the credit line kept increasing till we had almost $10,000 worth of supplies that we would be able to get from the supplier of the energy efficiency light bulbs, shower heads, power strips, aerators, and other items necessary to fulfill the energy assessments. So it went from me and my brother going and doing the audits and then having to come back doing the paperwork. Well, now we had the supply. We were training other individuals on being able to go out and do the installs. And we would just make sure the paperwork was done and we knew who had supply, and we made sure that the demand was met. When people wanted an appointment, when they wanted to get the 9 lights, shower head, power strip, aerators, installation, and assessment, they would call us and they would say, hey, I want to do my home. I live in this area. We knew we had this subcontractor that was working with us that's in Tidewater. We had this subcontractor work with us that's in Richmond. We got this one that's in South Boston. So based off of the area, we would be able to point our customers to the guys who were working with us. And at that time, we could actually canvas. So the guys who were working with us, they just did their intermediate network, or whether there was friends, families, girlfriends, it didn't matter. Long as they had a Dominion bill and they lived in a single family home. And that definition was sketchy or stretchy because, of course, in Southside Virginia, it's a whole lot of mobile homes. And what defines a mobile home versus a single family home is how the utility box is attached. So if the utility box is on a pole and it's being remotely standing in its own isolated place and it's not attached to a house, and they consider that a mobile home. If the utility box was attached to the mobile home, and once it's attached to the mobile home, it's no longer mobile, and now that's a single family home. So we was doing houses all over. The beautiful thing, since it's Money Monday, we talk about money. Of course, the first checks that came in, we got 23 checks, and next thing you know, we had a few dollars, 5,500. But then we just kept putting in audits. I mean, we got to the point where I remember one day we did, throughout the entire team, all over Virginia, we did 66 audits. Like one guy did 13, another guy, I think I did 12 that day. I had a lady who just knew everybody in her community. All her family was close. So she just took me from house to house that day. I probably almost had another episode because I ain't eating nothing. It was hot. But I was like, I cannot stop. She got all these appointments for me, and I'm taking them. And that was really how it worked. It was word of mouth. It didn't cost people anything to do the audit, so they was grateful to have it done. Everybody was acting like I was their grandson when I was going to houses in Petersburg. Just so happy. Like, it was funny how people would react. Because when we first got there, they thought it was some kind of scam or something. I never forget. We got to the point where we was doing so many of them now, we got invited to the Triad meeting for Prince Edward County, right there in Dinwiddie. And they have this committee called Triad. Triad is, I don't know what it stands for, but it's the sheriff department having meetings with the elderly community. So imagine I'm there. We done finally got shirts printed up and hats and stuff. Roy with me. At this time, Roy got dreads going all down his back. He got the shirt on and the hat, but we looking like, who is that? And I'll never forget the sheriff up there standing like, I'm gonna go green. They're doing the program with the utility company. These boys will come in your house and change your lights and stuff. And, it's the sheriff up there telling all of these elderly white senior citizens and a few black ladies there, and they was the ones giving me the business. Like, you bull, you's a scam. I'm like, ma'am, this is not a lie. Look at this paperwork. And it's funny, the ones who gave me the toughest time at the meetings, those was the ones that I would be meeting and giving them some bread, because they was always calling like, Mr. Coleman, I got one for you. I got one. And those same ladies that I met at that Triad meeting was the ones who pointed me, like, individually. The audits that I did came from that room. It was about 4 or 5 ladies, and like I told you, the one lady, she gave me 12 in a day. Another lady did it a different way. She would tell a few people at her church every week. Every week she would speak about me beautifully, and they would have me going to different homes in their community. So in Petersburg, I was like a son to everyone, going and making sure that everybody had their audits done and they had new lights. One thing about seniors, when they lights go out, once you become a senior, that's a room that don't even get used no more, because they ain't got that same strength to be climbing ladders and stuff. So, I learned that just changing light bulbs changed some people's lives, because they might have had rooms they ain't used in years. And now, just from having the light changed in the room, they can now go in the room and use it again. So we was doing so many audits, buying so many supplies, that now I'm trying to devise ways to get more supplies cheaper. And that's what happened. That's how we went about getting the first light. This light. I called up China and told them I wanted a CFL, because this one we was putting in houses at first. So when we first was doing the system, this was the light bulb that we were putting in. I called up China. They told me that they could make them for me. And this bulb here was the first Glow, the CFL. And that is what allowed our money to swell. Because now, instead of paying the supplier all this money per light, I'm getting our own lights made in China. And believe it or not, that was a blessing to us. But the utility companies and the suppliers hated it. They was like, hold on, you making the money without any of it coming to us. We got a problem with that. I mean, as we increased, I had other utility companies have me meet with them, because unlike other companies that just did this as an add-on service, we ain't have no other business. So all we did was the home energy checkup. So of course we went from being 5 houses at a time, low contractor, to now I got enough supply where I'm doing 100 or so houses per month. And now we end up becoming one of the biggest contractors even doing it, to the point where when North Carolina opened up the program, we were the first contractors that they sent over to North Carolina. So once they sent me to North Carolina, we was doing the big, already got lights coming from China and stuff. Then I was like, man, we going to China. We going to China. At that time, I had about 300 audits or more in the system that they had to pay me out on before I went to China. I was like, we are about to make a big advance. Now it's about over 300 audits in there. They owe me like $75,000. We ready to do something big. And I never forget, they called me and said, man, your guys ain't doing what they supposed to do. We getting all types of complaints. Y'all gotta take these 300 audits and eat them. Eat them? What you mean? You know, like, we mean that we can't pay you on them. So now I got to go revisit. I got to go just try to make something happen. We just got to the point of having a little money. I just put in the tickets to go to China. Just had a celebration for my grandmother's 80th birthday, and just thought that we was ready to really take the next step in money and financial freedom. And the 300 audits I had in there, the utility was like, we need to cheat them. Whether I feel as if we did what we were supposed to or not, we did make sure that the people got what they wanted them to have. And the people who didn't get served correctly, many of them I had to go right back to their door myself to get things back right. Some of them we got right, some of them they deleted and we got wrong. And the whole thing that was once a big opportunity for others was gone. And after all that, I was left doing the audits and doing the installations myself. Of course, when things don't go right, people that you employ take flight. So we seen money come in real swiftly, but we ain't appreciate it correctly, so it left just as swiftly as it came. But I'm grateful we got the chance to get over to China and learn the things. So when the program came back, we had our own LEDs intact to be able to install. We didn't fall, but we fell. And we was able to pick ourselves up before everything went to hell. Now, the same opportunity coming back again. And this time, it's coming back on Juneteenth. And this time I have a different understanding. This time I don't have any surprises. This time I know the wisest way to do it is to keep it all in-house. between me and my immediate family. That's what is the understanding that I see. Hallelujah.